Sean Buffington, what is going on, man? Thank you so much for joining Petty Sports. Where are you calling from tonight, brother?
What's up, bro? I'm calling from Kuwait, actually.
Sweet.
Out here right now.
Yeah, I bet it is cold, dude. Hey, so good to have you in the show. Thank you for joining me on the birthday show, bro. I miss you so much. I love you, dog. Let's get into these Braves. So you wrote something really beautiful on Facebook. I think it was this morning, or might have been last night after or before Game 1. So you had a beautiful timeline of Atlanta's season, and really from, the 80s, 90s, all the way to now. Can you walk me through that a little bit, and let's talk about the history of this team and how they've gotten here?
So like when I became a Braves fan, I was like 8 years old. I went to my first Braves game when I was like, I want to say 3 years old. Didn't really know what was going on. Didn't really start following the Braves till I was like 8 or 9.
Right.
And you grow up in Atlanta hearing about the glory days of the 90s Bobby Cox teams, all that stuff.
Yep.
And then for a good 10 years, there was nothing. It was, constant. The Braves were good, but they weren't good enough to win the division against the Phillies. Then they'd lose in the first round to the Giants.
Yep.
They won a couple division titles back in 2013. Once again, couldn't get it to go in the postseason. I think from 2003 till last year, the Braves did not make it past the first round of the playoffs.
Yep.
Like an 18-year gap where they could not advance.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's not going to lie. It's been a rough time being a Braves fan. But these past few years, with Ronald Acuna coming up, you started feeling like something special was going to go down.
100%.
And, still, he was on the team for the past 3 years, and they just couldn't get it going. Last year they lost the Dodgers in the NLCS after being up 3-1.
Yep.
And so you kept feeling like, okay, maybe it's coming. And then this season with the injuries, losing Marcell Ozuna,
yep,
losing Ronald's the ACL tear, you started feeling like, hey, this isn't looking good. I don't think it's going to happen. I actually remember telling my friend, we were talking about should the Braves sell or buy at the deadline, and I said, look, you've got Freddie Freeman, who's at the end of his contract, needs to be resigned. I said, this season's gone. You're sitting at 2 or 3 games under 500.
Yep.
Around the trade deadline. You're 7 games back of the Mets. Like, they need to sell and maybe make some money to get Freeman back.
Right.
But the front office had other plans.
Absolutely. Like you said here, they ended up going 37-20 to finish out the season, won their 4th division title in a row, and it was on to the postseason. But, and like I said before you got on the phone with this man, having Acuna go down, your best player, no question about it. And you said when he came in, that felt special. You had Soroka, competing for Cy Young, competing for, so many pitching accolades, and then he re-injures himself, and gets a little bit of a setback. If you had to choose 3 impact players for this Braves team to just absolutely have to perform night in and night out, it rides on them for the Braves to win the World Series. Give me your top 3 and why.
I got to go with Ozzy Albies. When he's on the base pad, something amazing happens every night. You saw that last night. He gets on with it. See, I think he had 2 infield singles, but he got on with the infield single in the first, able to steal second base, and then Riley doubles him in.
Dude's a speedster.
I also think, if Duvall is swinging the bat the way he's been swinging it, that is a huge sign. He hasn't been great in the postseason.
Right.
But, if Duvall's, putting up the barrel of the bat on the ball like that, that's a good sign. And I've got to go with MV Free, man. Freddie can get it going, man. Past few games, he hasn't really been getting it going, but the other guys have picked him up. If he can get it going and the other guys can keep having it going, it's going to be a quick series for the Houston Astros.
That's absolutely right. Braves already come out hot in the top of the first inning, 2 hits here. Man, I loved all those players that you just laid out there. I'll start with number 3, and this might shock a lot of people. Ryan, if you're watching, you're welcome for me saying this because he really needs to perform. Give me Luke Jackson at number 3. And I know he led up to 4 runs in the one NLCS game, but do people realize he was basically on no rest that game? Comes back after a few days rest. I think 1 to 3 days rest for the game that he came in, 11 pitches, gave up a few runs with the Dodgers again, and he had a lot of heat on his back. He really did. But then you talk about last night, coming in, being absolutely lights out. The dude was giving up all runs, no strikeouts with those first 2 outings, and then he comes in again, and it's all strikeouts, no runs. You talking about flipping the script, and here's why it's so important for Luke Jackson. One, because the pressure's on you. You're playing for the Atlanta Braves in the World Series. But 2, everybody is having the spotlight looking at you now, especially considering how those couple of games went. And check it out. We're tough down here in Atlanta. Look, we're starved for a championship. Got a great segment coming up there later for that. We are starved for a championship here in the city. I mean, please, somebody help us. It's got to be the Braves. Luke Jackson has to be that confident middle piece to take it home. Number 2, of course, Eddie Rosario. Go ahead. I hear you.
Oh, I was just going to say, even the pitch that Jackson made to Bellinger in that game, I think it was game 3, that Bellinger it wasn't a bad pitch.
It wasn't. He chased that. He chased that 100%.
98 miles per hour. At the top of the zone,
right?
The strike zone.
You're gonna hit a fastball like a few inches below your chin. That's just a great hit by Cody Bellinger. And I'm glad you brought that up because they actually showed a few pitches from that game where it was like up, high, down and inside, below the knees, and like these dudes were just hitting that game. So I am glad that you brought that up. He wasn't pitching horrible, but unfortunately, when you are out there, when you got the pressure that you do, the stakes were so high. I mean, come on now. Same team. You asked for them. Same setting. I mean, let's go. We have the home field advantage. What else are we going to do? So I love you bringing that up. Up with Luke Jackson there. But, of course, also Eddie Rosario, man. NLCS MVP. Dude went absolutely nuts in the NLCS. I mean, what didn't he do? John Fricke, shout out to Atlanta broadcaster. He said, okay, let's be honest. The top 4 teams of the country right now are Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Eddie Rosario. Like, Eddie Rosario is just absolutely going off this year, man. And when you talk about them rebuilding that outfield with, help me out a little bit here if I fall off, Sean. I know Jacques Peterson, Eddie Rosario, Jorge Soler, and Adam Duvall, if I'm not mistaken. At that point, when they were up 3-1 in the NLCS, the dudes were smacking, the dudes were slugging. I mean, they were not missing anything whatsoever. And then, of course, the last one, I don't have to really elaborate on this. Freddie Freeman, MV Free. He did get some heat early on in the NLCS, but he really picked it up towards the end. I think he went, after going for like 0 for 7 or 0 for 8 in the first 2 games, he was like 6 for 18, so above a 300 hitter.
He went 0 for 7 with 7 strikeouts to start the NLCS.
Ooh.
That's unheard of for Freddie.